Hello and welcome. I'm Asuma Katauka and you're watching World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. Italy's ruling parties are urging caution in the use of frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine, according to a draft parliamentary resolution saying the impact on state finances should be carefully assessed. This comes as the EU assesses using the frozen Russian assets to back a loan for Kyiv's military and civilian needs. Dutch Foreign Minister David van Bijl said the Netherlands will be the home of an international claims commission for Ukraine. Van Bijl said the commission was primarily aimed at establishing claims and would not offer an outright guarantee of repayment to Ukraine. The European Commission is set to backtrack on the EU's planned ban on new combustion engine cars from 2035 by allowing continued sales of some non-electric vehicles following intense pressure from Germany, Italy and Europe's auto sector amid rising pressure from the car makers. Myanmar's junta has said that detained former leader Aung San Suu Kyi is in good health despite her serving a 27-year prison sentence. Kyi, a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, was detained after a 2021 military coup that ousted her elected civilian government and sparked a civil war. Philippine immigration says the father and son behind Australia's deadly Bondi Beach attack spent most of November in the country. Officials say the father entered the Philippines as an Indian national before returning to Australia. The United States offers NATO-style security guarantees to Ukraine as talks with European and Ukrainian officials show progress towards ending the war. U.S. envoys warned the offer is time-limited, with no agreement yet on territorial concessions. Thailand says Cambodia must be the first to announce a ceasefire to halt more than a week of deadly border clashes. Bangkok says Cambodia, which it calls the aggressor, must also cooperate sincerely in border demining efforts. In the long-running conflict in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, the rebel coalition alliance Fleuve Congo has announced a conditional withdrawal of its fighters from the strategic city of Uvira in South Kivu province as international pressure increases. Now for this hour, we start with Indian police. Indian police say the gunman killed in Australia's Bondi Beach mass shooting, Sajid Akram, was originally from Hyderabad, India, but had limited contact with his family back in India. The attack is Australia's deadliest mass shooting in nearly 30 years, is being investigated as a terrorist attack targeting the Jewish community. 15 people were killed at a Hanukkah event, including 3 victims named Edith Brutman and a married couple, Boris and Sophia Gurman. Sajid Akram was shot dead by police while his 24-year-old son and alleged accomplice Naveed Akram remains in critical condition after also being shot. Telangana police have said that the family had no knowledge of any radical activity and that Akram had no adverse record before migrating to Australia in 1998. Australian authorities said both men traveled to the Philippines last month, though investigators have not confirmed links to any terrorist group. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has called this an act of anti-Semitic terror. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Jordan Cope. He's a Middle East expert, joins us live from Dallas. Thank you very much, Mr. Cope, for joining us again. Good to see you. Mr. Cope, now that we've found out that, this person was an immigrant from India, what more do we know so far and what more can you tell us about this?
So what we know so far are a few simple details. It seems like the father and son duo were of Pakistani origin, and a ISIS flag was found in their car, and according to the head of state of Australia, Anthony Albanese, it looks like they were motivated by ISIS in committing and carrying out this terrorist attack. Australia should have properly vetted better, perhaps, the family before allowing them into the country. But one must not forget the ultimate motive of this attack was anti-Semitism, and Australia has had a significant problem with anti-Semitism, especially since October 7th, 2023, whereas incidents of anti-Semitism have skyrocketed by over 300%, not just in Australia, but also other countries in the Western world, such as the United Kingdom and the United States. Australia has been warned time and time again about anti-Semitic incidents in the country by the Jewish community. Between 2023 and 2024, there are over 2,000 anti-Semitic incidents reported. The country effectively did nothing. Nobody was surprised when this attack happened because Australia was known for having some of the most significant spikes of anti-Semitic incidents, including a synagogue that was attacked via arson last year and effectively burnt down. At around the same time as well, one might add, Australia has significantly failed in this situation to recognize the problem for what it is, which is anti-Semitism. And on top of that, instead of devising and committing to a strategy to fight anti-Semitism for what it is, Anthony Albanese, Australia's head of state, has decided to prioritize instead addressing gun crime, despite Australia already having some of the strongest gun crime laws in the world. We are witnessing, unfortunately, a very deadly rise in anti-Semitic attacks. We recently saw Jews killed in Washington, D.C. We saw Jews killed in Manchester, United Kingdom. And now we've seen 16, it looks like at least 16 Jews killed in Australia. An attack that has claimed more lives than the Tree of Life synagogue attack in Pittsburgh several years back. Anti-Semitism is out of control, and Australia needs to get a grip on its current situation. And of course, that involves addressing where anti-Semitism comes from, including from leftist radicalist elements, as well as Islamist elements. Not to mention, also, anti-Semitism has seen a surge on the right as well, but we must address where anti-Semitism is coming from first and foremost, and at its strongest.
And, thank you for highlighting that. And Mr. Cope, as we know, this two people who were of Indian, not two, but the father who was of Indian origin, how do you think that when there is no record, especially criminal record, for someone who's radicalized, how should government tackle that?
Well, government should take more time screening those who seek to migrate to their countries. They should have a more stringent process. In Switzerland, they have members of each canton sometimes convene to actually meet with prospective migrants who want to move to the country, or to at least assess their immigrant application claims. And they ultimately get to decide whether such migrants are compatible with their local morals and ways of life. And I think Western countries need to start thinking more and more about when they do approve of immigration, they need to make sure that it is indeed compatible with their thinking and their ways of life. Otherwise, it will disrupt social cohesion and ultimately pave the way for radicals to come into the country under the guise of tolerance that ultimately promotes intolerance at the end of the day, with deadly consequences. It's very important to get immigration policies right, and we've seen, especially in the case of the European Union, immigration can get out of control sometimes. And in the case of the European Union right now, we have seen a wave of violence, a wave of radicalism, and the future of Europe definitely remains very much a concern to much of the local population.
With that, I would like to thank Mr. Cope for joining us today as a Middle East expert from Dallas. Thank you very much. Now we move on to our next news. Benin has jailed around 30 people, most of them soldiers, who are accused of links to thwarted coup attempt earlier this month to overthrow Talon's government. Earlier this month, soldiers led by Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigri appeared on national television to announce President Patrice Talon had been deposed. But the attempted push was swiftly defeated by loyalist army forces with the help of the Nigerian Air Force and French Special Forces. During the attempt, several people were killed, and the alleged coup leader, Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigri, and other mutinous soldiers are still on the run. According to sources, 30 accused people appeared in front of a special prosecutor for the Court for Economic Crimes and Terrorism in the city of Cotonou. Now for this discussion, we welcome Ms. Alison Mutler. She's a former AP Bureau Chief in Romania, joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you very much, Ms. Alison, for joining us again. Good to see you. Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
Now, what do you think, what measures should Benin take now to address the underlying tensions within its military and political elite to prevent any future coup attempts?
Well, I think Benin, the judiciary, is taking very swift steps. I think the coup attempt was on December the 7th. I remember commenting on it.
Yes.
And it was swiftly put down. It only lasted a few hours. And Patrice Talon, who is the president, about to leave office in April, there'll be elections, took very swift action, put down the coup. And now, what are we on, December the 16th now? So within 10 days, 9 days, they're already in court. Now, the coup leader is on the run, as are other people, but I think the message is very strong that this instability, particularly within the military, will not be tolerated. Benin wants to be seen as a stable, if you like, serious democratic country, particularly as elections aren't that far away. So I think that this swift apprehension of 30 coup plotters and the fact that they've been arrested or detained, they're in pre-trial detention, is important. It's an important message. And, as we can see, the leader of the coup, normally they do go into hiding. He's gone into hiding, and other people too. But this is a strong message to anybody else within the military, should they be planning another coup, that this will be put down swiftly and justice will follow, and the courts will try these people. So I think that's what Benin, and I think that's what the leadership is trying to do at the moment.
Right, and how significant is the role of foreign assistance, in this case, the support from the Nigeria Air Force and French Special Forces?
This is interesting. In the hours when we were commenting after the coup, we knew about the Nigerian Air Force had helped put down the coup, because these kind of attempted putches, need to be put down very quickly, because the putsch leaders would always try and convince their followers that they've been successful and get people to defect onto their side. So this is very important that Nigeria took swift action. But what has emerged since the day after the failed coup is the help by the French special forces. Now, we do know that France has historically played a key role in Africa and still continues to do. But obviously this was something that the foreign countries, France and Nigeria, did not want to see instability in Benin. And clearly they needed to provide their military assistance, their military power and their intelligence to make sure this coup was swiftly foiled. It was put down, and it couldn't take root, because if it had done, it would have been more instability, and that's not what Benin wants, and it's not what the other regional countries want. They want their region to be seen as a region that is beginning to become more stable and to prosper, and so that they can attract more foreign investment, so they can attract tourism, etc., etc. So it's not just Benin that was interested in keeping stability, but also their neighbours and France, which is an additional element we didn't immediately know about, but it is interesting.
Yes, indeed. Yes. With that, I would like to thank Ms. Mutler for sharing that. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on to Sudan. Sudan's foreign ministry has said that Sudan's de facto leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, is ready to work with US President Donald Trump to resolve the conflict splitting his country. The statement comes after the army chief visited Riyadh as a guest of Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who recently presented Trump with the proposed Sudan peace plan during a Washington visit. According to the statement, General Burhan also hailed Trump's determination to engage in efforts to achieve peace and end the war in the country with the participation of Saudi Arabia. International peace efforts led by mediators from the United States, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates have been at a standstill since Burhan rejected Boulos' last suggested framework. Meanwhile, the RSF says it supports the international ceasefire plan, but heavy fighting continues, notably in the southern region of Kordofan. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Ms. Alison Mutler. She is a former AP Bureau Chief in Romania, joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you very much, Ms. Alison, for staying with us. Now looking at this, again, what role are external actors playing, and is their role limited over here in facilitating a sustainable peace in Sudan?
Well, first of all,
Yes.
Sudan ongoing hostilities, civil war, is very underreported in the international media. I mean, we hear a lot about Ukraine, about other areas. So a lot of killing, I think tens of thousands have died, and it's wrecked the country. So Sudan has clearly not being able to sort out this problem itself. As you mentioned, we have a de facto leader. We don't even have a permanent leader. I mean, they're unable to hold elections. So it is clear that they do need outside assistance. And this has been very carefully worked out. We have the help now of Saudi Arabia, the Prince MBS as he's known as, and also Donald Trump, which is, I suppose, I don't want to say it's quite flattering, but the fact that the leader of the leader of the free world is interested in a ceasefire, I think is important to a country like Sudan. But it's not just the United States, it's also Saudi Arabia and other countries. And I think, there's been enough instability, enough killing. There is a desire to reach a ceasefire. Again, it's like Ukraine. Whether it will be able to happen is another issue, because you have two forces fighting each other, and there's still fierce fighting around I think you report around the south and in the west. And there's also other forces, the RSF in the north, and it's very difficult. But it is important that the international community, particularly the United States, which is the world's biggest player, as well as regional players like Saudi Arabia and I think Egypt as well, are coming together. And I think that the de facto leader has realised that this situation can't continue, but it can't be stopped without serious international involvement. Other peace plans have failed. I think the UN had a peace plan that didn't work. So you do need political actors. Having just the UN is not enough. So I think it's a sign of hope, but there's still a long way to go.
Yes, and now, why do you think there's a lot of efforts have been failing? Do you think there's risks of foreign-led mediation from these leaders' point of view?
Sudan, but I know it's a very complicated situation, and there's various factions, and some of them are, like terror groups, and the fighting has gone on for a long time, and this is what they've been used to. So I don't think there's particularly a desire by many of the sides for a peaceful solution, because maybe, war does suit them better, and war is what they've been used to. But it is, a very complicated situation with various factions, of which some are terror factions, and that's their very reason for existing, is to create terror. So they're not going to want to put down their arms. It's the political forces that will want to do that. It's the civic forces that will want peace, but not the terror factions, who do control important regions, and they have people who are part of their organisation. So it's a very complicated situation, and we have sides that don't actually want peace, and that makes it much more complicated.
Yes, and one of the reasons they're fighting is for I think the division is based on their Arab Sudanese and ethnical division over there between Arab Sudanese as well as the Afro-African Sudanese. So do you think that this could lead to maybe another country forming? As we know, South Sudan became independent many years ago, and now Sudan is tackling this.
I didn't hear that very, very well.
Yes, let me repeat it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes. So I was asking, do you see another formation of another country, like the division?
Yes, it's possible. This is an intractable, very hard to solve conflict, and we have various forces. We have different. You have the Islams on the one side, then you have the traditional Africans on the other side, some of which are Christian, some of which are not. It is possible that the country will split into. And I don't know what the peace plan contains, and I don't know what each side would agree to. But in the end, that might be the only solution the two sides can agree on, that we cannot live in a peace, and we can't even agree on a ceasefire, and therefore the best thing to do is to divide the country. I mean, as I said at the beginning, even the leader is a de facto leader. It's not even an elected leader. It's a very interim, unstable situation, and people are getting killed by the tens of thousands, and apart from people who want to prolong the war, nobody is winning here. So in the end, if the two sides really can't agree, it is possible, as we've seen in other countries in the world, that there is a land split, and Sudan becomes two countries. Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Mutler, for sharing that from Bucharest. Please stay with us as we come back to you for our next discussion as well. Now, moving on, plans to convert Belgrade's former Yugoslav army headquarters into a high-rise hotel are being abandoned after Jared Kushner's firm, Affinity Partners, withdrew from the project. The building is being left in a state of disrepair, with warnings that debris could fall as no work is being undertaken. The project's cancellation follows allegations that the removal of its cultural heritage status was based on a forged document, which has led to the indictment of Serbia's culture minister and 3 others. Protests have been held in Belgrade, with the site being called for preservation as both an architectural and a landmark and a memorial to the 1999 NATO bombing. The withdrawal is being described by the firm as a decision made out of respect for the people of Serbia, while the abandoned project is being called a major loss for both the state and investors. Now for this discussion, we welcome back Ms. Alison Mutler. She's a former AP Bureau Chief in Romania, joins us live from Bucharest. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, looking at this, what are we to make of this report? What more can you share with us?
Well, I was actually here working as a journalist in Romania, which
Yes.
is next to Serbia, when NATO bombed Serbia for 78 days. And there was a lot of bitterness about that. And as you said in your report, this site, which is a bit of a wreck, is actually seen as a sort of monument, a cultural monument, a reminder of what Serbia had to endure over the war in Kosovo, because basically there was a huge crackdown by the Serbians on the ethnic Albanians in Kosovo, and in the end Kosovo became an independent country. But a lot of Serbians still feel very strongly about this building and the fact that they were bombarded by, they consider, the West, and they were mistreated. So I don't think, even though there may be Serbians who like Donald Trump because of his sort of hardline stand, etc., and that he's a nationalist, they don't like the idea of this building being turned into some sort of swish upmarket hotel which people make money from. And as for Jared Kushner, I really don't think he needs the complications of being involved with something which is now already, before it's even started, been associated with corruption. So I think that's why he's pulling out. But it's also a very controversial and touchy project. And I think that Jared Kushner just doesn't want to be involved. And it's not just any old building. He's not just putting up a hotel or luxury apartment blocks, but it is in a very significant building that is deliberately kept in its sort of bombed out state to remind Serbians of their history and what they had to endure, whether it was fair or not is another question, as part of their recent history to do with Kosovo. So it's very sensitive. And in history, I think 20 years, 25 years isn't such a long time.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Ms. Mutler for sharing that insight. As a former AP Bureau Chief in Romania from Bucharest, thank you very much. Now we move on to U.S. futures for Canada's main stock index has dipped as investors turned cautious ahead of crucial U.S. jobs data, while lower commodity prices added to the downward pressure. U.S. stock futures were under pressure ahead of the combined U.S. employment data for October and November, which was delayed by the U.S. government shutdown. The report could influence the U.S. Federal Reserve's monetary policy in 2026. The central bank cut rates thrice by 25 basis points this year, and investors expect 2 such cuts next year. Easing interest rates and upbeat commodity prices have put Canadian stocks on track for their best annual showing since 2009, beating major U.S. indexes so far this year. The commodity-heavy index is directly influenced by the prices of oil, gold, and essential metals. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world.